Get ready for a chilling journey through 10 stories of inexplicable disappearances of children. Each account is filled with dark mysteries, urban legends, and supernatural phenomena that will send shivers down your spine. From whispers in the forest to the sinister circus of shadows, these tales will challenge your imagination and tap into your deepest fears. To not miss the upcoming stories, leave your link and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Story number 1. The Whisper in the Forest, the Disappearance of Clara. In the small village of Heartwood, children were warned never to enter the forest at dusk. There were ancient tales of voices calling out names, but no one knew for sure if they were real. Clara, an 8-year-old girl, ignored the warnings one afternoon while playing with her friends. The last time she was seen, she was just a few feet from the forest entrance, listening to something that no one else could hear. As the sun set and Clara didn't return home, her parents began to worry. They immediately organized a search, bringing flashlights and calling out for her, but the dense trees seemed to swallow their voices. With each step they took, the silence of the forest grew more terrifying. No trace of Clara was found that night. In the following days, the search continued, involving the entire community. Search dogs, drones, and even helicopters were used, but nothing seemed to work. People began to speak again of the whisper in the forest, an old local tale about spirits that lured young, innocent souls. A week after the disappearance, Clara's mother heard something strange while walking along the edge of the forest. It was a familiar whisper, soft but unmistakable. "Mommy." It sounded like Clara's voice. Desperate, she ran into the forest despite being warned not to do so. She never returned. The story of Clara and her mother became a legend, and the Heartwood Forest became more feared than ever. To this day, it is said that at twilight, you can still hear voices calling out, but if you respond, you will never be seen again. Story number 2. The Abandoned Playground. Children Lost Forever. On the outskirts of the city, there was an old, rusted playground that had almost been forgotten. The older kids warned that no one should play there after dark. The legend said that decades ago, several children mysteriously disappeared from that park and were never seen again. One day, a group of 5 friends decided to challenge this superstition. They met at the playground at dusk, determined to prove that there was nothing dangerous about it. At first, everything seemed normal. They swung on the swings, slid down the slide, and laughed at their own fears. However, as night fell, an unsettling feeling overtook them. A cold wind began to blow, making the swings move on their own. Suddenly, one of the friends, Lucas, heard a distant child's laugh. "Did you hear that?" he asked, but the others shook their heads, confused. Then, a strange shadow appeared near the carousel. It was small, but undeniably human. "There's a child over there," one of the girls screamed. They ran to investigate, but the figure vanished into the darkness. One by one, the friends began to feel that they were not alone. They tried to leave, but suddenly the playground gate was locked. Panic set in. One by one, the friends began to disappear without a trace, as if swallowed by the darkness. The next day, their parents searched for them, but all they found was an empty playground. From that night on, the playground grew even more sinister. Now, locals say that passing by at night, you can hear distant children's laughter, but no one dares to investigate up close. Story number 3. The Fatal Game. When They Never Came Back. On a sunny summer afternoon, 3 inseparable friends, Gabriel, Alice, and Pedro, decided to play hide-and-seek in the hills behind their village. It was a vast place, filled with trees, caves, and large rocks where they could hide. Their parents knew it was safe, as long as they stayed away from the deep creek. As the game progressed, Alice, who was counting, opened her eyes and began searching for the other 2. She quickly found Gabriel, but Pedro was missing. They called for him everywhere, thinking he was just hiding very well. However, time passed, and Pedro did not appear. Concern grew, and they returned to the village for help. A search team was organized, and the villagers scoured the area with flashlights. The only clue found was Pedro's red cap, left near a cave that the parents had always forbidden the children from entering. A few days later, Alice began having nightmares. She dreamed that Pedro was trapped somewhere dark, calling for help, but she couldn't see where. Gabriel also reported hearing Pedro's voice in his home at night, as if he were trying to speak to him. The search continued for weeks, but with no success. A rumor began to spread that the cave was cursed, and anyone who entered would never return. Pedro's disappearance became a mystery that the village could never solve. The cave was sealed off, but the mystery of what happened that sunny afternoon still haunts the village. Story number 4. Beyond the fog, where are the children of Oakwood? The village of Oakwood, surrounded by dense forest, has always been shrouded in mystery. A thick fog often enveloped the area, especially at night, making it impossible to see just a few feet ahead. Strange things were said to happen within the fog, but no one knew for sure what they were. On a cold autumn morning, 3 children, Emily, Jack, and Sophie, vanished without a trace. They were playing near the edge of the forest when the fog suddenly rolled in. Their mothers, distracted for just a moment, no longer saw them. The entire village mobilized to find the children. Search teams entered the forest, but the fog was so dense that they could barely see each other. As night fell, the search was suspended, and despair filled the parents. No one could understand how 3 children could disappear so quickly in a place they knew so well. However, this was not the first time something like this had happened. Ancient stories from the village spoke of other mysterious disappearances over the years, always involving the fog. Some believed there was something supernatural in the forest, something that lured children away to never be seen again. Years later, the families of the missing children still await answers. The fog continues to haunt Oakwood, and whenever it appears, fear settles in once more, as everyone knows that beyond it lies a dark secret that will never be revealed. Story number 5. The Sound of Lost Laughter. The Mystery of the Missing Twins. The story of twins Ethan and Emma haunts the village of Green Hollow to this day. They were inseparable, known for their loud laughter and playful antics. One day, while playing in the open field behind their house, they disappeared without a trace. The search for the twins began immediately. Authorities scoured the fields and forests nearby, but found no sign of them. Strangely, the villagers claimed to still hear their laughter in the distance, echoing through the village as if they were playing somewhere nearby. The laughter continued for days, always in the late afternoon, at the exact time the twins used to play. Some people believed they were being made fools of, thinking the twins were just hiding. But when weeks passed without any sign of them, unease began to grow. Ethan and Emma's parents started hearing the laughter too, but could never pinpoint where it was coming from. It was as if the sounds were moving, always escaping their grasp. They began to believe that something supernatural had occurred, that their children had been taken to another realm, where they continued to play, but could never return. The village was marked by this tragedy, and the sound of lost laughter is still heard occasionally. Now, everyone fears that other children may disappear in the same way, drawn in by those sounds that seem to toy with reality. Story number 6. Endless Night. The Village That Forgot Its Children. In the remote village of Dark Hollow, a dark night became an eternal curse. Once, during a total lunar eclipse, something strange happened. All the children of the village mysteriously disappeared without explanation. Desperate parents set out to find their children, but nothing worked. What was even more disturbing was that as the days passed, the adults of the village began to forget they ever had children. Gradually, their memories of the missing kids started to fade, as if they had never existed. Photos, toys, and clothes mysteriously vanished from homes, as if the village itself was erasing any trace of their presence. One woman, however, refused to forget. Helena, a determined mother, fought daily against the feeling that something was terribly wrong. She knew she had a daughter, even though she could no longer remember her face or name. Everyone around her called her crazy, insisting she had never had children. But Helena would not give up. One night, while walking alone through the silent streets of the village, she heard a soft music playing in the distance. Following the sound, she was drawn into the forest. There, in the darkness of the night, she stumbled upon an ancient clearing where, under the pale light of the eclipse, children were playing and laughing. She recognized her daughter among them, but something was different. The children appeared untouched by time, as if they had never aged since their disappearance. When she tried to approach, an invisible force held her back. A low, cold voice whispered in her ear, "They belong to the night now." Helena ran back to the village, her heart heavy, knowing her daughter was close but unreachable. The village of Dark Hollow continues to live under this curse. The children never returned, and the few who still remember the night of their disappearance feel that they are forgetting something important, as if part of their souls had also been taken that eternal night. Story number 7. The Cursed Mirror, where children vanish without a trace. The mirror in the attic of the Thompson house had always sparked curiosity among the family's children. It was said to be an ancient mirror, brought from a castle in Europe, and to hold dark secrets. Despite warnings never to touch it, siblings Tom and Lucy, aged 10 and 7, couldn't resist the temptation. On a rainy afternoon, they sneaked up to the attic while their parents were busy. As they approached the mirror, a strange chill coursed through their bodies. The surface of the mirror seemed to vibrate slightly, as if something was trapped on the other side, waiting to be released. "Did you see that?" Lucy asked, noticing a shadow moving in the reflection. Tom, feeling bold, reached out to touch the mirror. To his horror, his hand sank into the surface as if it were water. Before he could pull away, something yanked him in with great force. Lucy screamed as her brother disappeared before her eyes, swallowed by the other side. Desperate, she tried to pull him back, but when she touched the mirror, she was yanked in too. When their parents realized the children were missing, they searched everywhere. Nothing seemed out of place except for the mirror in the attic, now marked with smudged handprints, as if someone had tried to escape from within. Since that day, the Thompson children were declared missing. However, those who visit the house swear that if they look closely into the attic mirror, they can see two shadows in the background, trying in vain to return to the real world. Story number 8. Eyes in the Darkness, the legend of the missing children. For decades, the small town of Pineville has been haunted by a terrible secret. Children have been disappearing on the darkest nights without a moon for over 50 years. The phenomenon is always the same. A child goes to sleep in their room, and by morning they are gone. Doors and windows are closed, with no signs of forced entry or struggle, only the cold silence of absence. The legend says that on nights of disappearance, glowing eyes can be seen at the edge of the forest surrounding the town. Some believe they belong to wolves, while others speak of far darker, ancient, and hungry creatures that hunt only the innocent. Sarah's parents, aware of the rumors, were always on alert. One night, however, they could not prevent the inevitable. Sarah vanished like the others, leaving no trace. Desperate, they began searching for answers, consulting old town records in an attempt to understand what was happening. They discovered that centuries ago, Pineville had been the site of a macabre ritual, where children were offered to appease a dark spirit that resided in the forest. Ever since, it returned at intervals of decades to claim new souls. To this day, the whereabouts of Sarah and the other missing children remain a mystery. But whenever the moon completely disappears from the sky, parents lock their homes and pray that the eyes in the darkness do not come to claim their children. Story number 9, The Last Lullaby. Children who never woke up. In the village of Windermere, there was an ancient tradition of singing special lullabies passed down through generations. These songs were believed to protect children from nightmares and evil forces. However, one particular melody, known as the Midnight Song, had been forbidden for a long time, as it carried a curse. One day, a young nanny, unaware of the legend, sang this melody to the twins she was caring for. That night, the children fell into a deep sleep, but by morning, they did not wake. Their bodies lay there, cold and still, as if they were trapped in some dark dream. Desperate, the nanny called the parents, who sought help from healers and doctors, but no one could explain what had happened. An elder of the village, however, knew what it meant. She explained that the midnight song attracted shadowy beings that came to claim the children's souls, keeping them eternally in a deep sleep, imprisoned in endless nightmares. From that day on, the village of Windermere lived under the shadow of tragedy. The cursed song was banished forever, and every night parents made sure to sing only the right melodies to their children. Even so, the memory of the lost twins still haunts the village, and it is said that on quiet nights, you can hear the last lullaby echoing across the hills, a warning not to sing it again. Story number 10. The Circus of Shadows, the mysterious disappearance of young performers. A traveling circus called the Circus of Shadows arrived in the town of Riverbend and quickly became a sensation. Its main attraction was the talent of young performers, children who executed impossible acrobatics and breathtaking magical acts. However, there was something unsettling about the spectacle. The circus children never spoke to the audience. Always serious and with distant gazes, they appeared almost hypnotized. The townspeople began to question the origins of these children, as no one knew where they came from, and they didn't seem to belong to any of the circus members. On the night of a performance, 2 boys from the town, captivated by the circus, disappeared. Their frantic parents asked the circus staff for answers, but received only evasive responses. The next day, the circus had vanished, taking its secrets, and seemingly the children, with it. The legend of the Circus of Shadows grew, and stories emerged of how it traveled the country, abducting youth to transform them into part of the show, forever trapped in the dark magic that enveloped the place. To this day, the whereabouts of the boys from Riverbend remain unknown, but those who have encountered the circus again swear they saw their faces among the performers, like shadows from a forgotten past, eternally imprisoned in an endless show.